Alright guys, good morning everyone, it's Shannon again for another episode of Hoops and Football. Today will just be the review of probably the worst loss of the year against the Sydney Swans. So, let's get to it. Alrighty, so as I was saying, we would have to go down probably as our worst loss. Probably I felt like maybe the boys just kind of gave up. And it's hard to say that. It's a bit harsh probably as well. It seemed like the first quarter, we matched them. It was quite even of a game. And then maybe they just got their confidence back, and we allow them to have that confidence back by not keeping the pressure on. Very, very wasteful kicks. A couple of times where we had the defense set up really well. And look, that's been a key pillar of our season this year is how well our defense has held up. And it's shocking considering and it's not probably actually not shocking. It's our most experienced part of the team is our defense. And I remember listening to Jason Dunstall when he was saying how well the defence was holding up. And then we got the ball going forward. Sonny kicked it on the far wing. We missed it. And then they just ran it. And then the defence just gave up after that. We've tried for so long and then just broke. And then everybody was just unmanned for ages. So, look, I think the bye has probably come at the right time. I was saying it on the Big Tiger Footy Cast. I think the boys need the bye. I think the young tools are tired. Train looks tired. A lot of these players have only played, I think on the weekend again, it's 11, I think it's like 10 to 15 players under 50 games. So it just wouldn't surprise me if we're just a bit tired. And I would like to see a bit of a change coming into the Western Bulldogs game. I get the idea of trying to put as many games into some of these players, but we also do have players who are playing in the VFL, who have played quite good, who probably deserve a shot. When Jonty Full and Sims went in, it wasn't like they had massive games in the VFL to get in. So something I would like to do, just to bring up quickly before we go into the breakdown of the game. Is probably maybe bring in Liam Fawcett and McCarthy Lafau, both of them at the same time. Sims and Full go back down, try to get a bit of confidence in. Jasper Olga comes in, Steely Green comes out, or Ryan Mansell. I just think we need to do a bit of a change, and it's probably not a bad idea to give some of these other guys some senior time. Liam Fawcett played one game, and he didn't do nothing wrong to be dropped in the first place, so I don't see why we're not giving him some, and he's a lot more of a bigger body. He's second year into his season, so his body's filled out a lot more. That's why he's called the tap. So, obviously, we yet again inaccuracy kicking because we were 4-12, 36, which is probably our lowest scoring for the whole year, which is quite sad. We normally get at least over 50 to 11 to 14, so that obviously they were very inaccurate. But we need to improve on that scoring, and obviously it's hard these days where a few people have made comments about why the players don't kick as accurate. Look, if you look back on the days where this was a job, they used to train a lot more. Now it's very restricted. It's very cut back. You've got so much time you can be out on the track, and that's it. So it's not like, where they used to just be able to stay out later. Like a lot of guys doing country footy. You have a bad game kick and you stay out and you just kick for an extra, an hour on you practicing kicking. They can't have that these days, which may be something that AFL needs to look into because this year is like the lowest year in a long time. I don't think shortening the quarters is going to fix that. I think it's maybe the players just aren't cooking good because if you look at the team, that's 26 missed shots for the whole entire game just between Richmond and Sydney. And Richmond is in now. This might be our second game. Yeah, we've kicked something close to like 30 points. That would win us a game if we kicked those goals. 15 goals would win you a game every single week. So, look, that's just a bit of a rant. Down by 40, lost by 44. Look, the score itself, like the 44 points, isn't that bad. That's what we we're hoping for the whole season. It's not a 60 to 80, but it's definitely something we need to improve on. A bit of a scoring impact as well. So Timmy Taranto, 25 disposals. He kicked 1 goal. 316 metres gained, which I do like, that then the metres are up a bit higher. What's that? 4 tackles, which is good. 5 clearances. Jacob Hopper was 22 disposals. Deon Presti was 21, so he was still pretty good, but in a goal. But he had 13 disposals in the first quarter, so then it just shows you how well they tagged him out. So that was another one, which kind of sucks, because you would think if Presti is tagged out, that means Hopper and Taranto should get off on the chain, and be a lot better. But they just, I don't know, maybe they're just worn out from the Giants game the week before. Sam Banks, he had 21 disposals, 422 metres gained, so he's staying in the high 400s now, 400 to 500 metres gained per game. I think it's hard to see Short going back and taking his spot. Luke Traynor, still probably the most consistent player we've drafted from the 2024 draft. And I'm not sure where he played this week. I feel like it was wing, but I'd like to see him stay in the back line with Brown. It is hard because Gibbs will be back soon, Short, so it's hard to find a spot for him. But he's got to stay. He just plays too good as a defender. His IQ is quite high. Look, yeah, I know he was rated with the second worst kick in the comp, but it's his first year. He's going to improve that eventually, but he takes the daring kicks as well. Kane McCall. Now, this is a good one. I'll have to give my credit to... where is it? There it is. So, Michael from the Big Tiger Footy Cast posted this on Twitter. I think it was maybe last night. So, Kane McCall, this will be his stats. And this is this may be a bit of a shock on eye, but just how good Kane McCall is or is going to be. So, he had 19 disposals yesterday. He had 8 of them were kicks. He had 11 handballs. Saturday. Today's Monday. 7 marks as well. And that's probably not known quite. It's a bit quiet. 4 tackles, 1 clearance, 65% time on ground. So, if you think of Tim Taranto, 25 disposals, so he's off by 6. Tim Taranto was on the ground 88%. So over 23% more time on the ground, and Kane McCall almost got the same amount. So I think when McCain can get that up to what a Hopper or a Presti is, in that 75 to 78, close to 80%, we could be looking at, Kane McCall, somebody who's a damaging left footer who could be getting close to 30 disposals every game and probably kick a goal too. Here and there. That's, I think, how explosive he is as a midfielder. So I think he needs to stay in the side no matter what. I think he's showing signs, very high signs, especially considering how little he's actually playing. He's up there with his time on ground is close to what the sub gets. That's how low his time on ground is. Now, is that an injury concern, or are they just trying to build him up for the midfield fitness? And is that 65% of that time just midfield? Is that why he's not getting as much time on the ground? Because he just spends so much time in the midfield, and that's all he's doing. He's not going forward. So Tyler Sonsie had 18 disposals, so look, it's not a bad game for him. Whether it's enough to stay in the team is a conversation. I think a lot of people have him ticked off to not staying here by the end of the year. Tommy Nankervis had 17 disposals, 24 hit-outs, 7 clearances. I think he actually was the leading clearance player, yep. But he only had 84 metres, 132 metres gained, sorry. So that's a bit of a concern, considering how well he got it. Obviously, we can probably agree that Grundy won that contest in the ruck. But look, Grundy always tends to have Nank's day every time. He hasn't had too many games where he's beat Nank's one. And maybe that's what hurt us as well, that Grundy was able to get the winning from the ruck, where if we think back on the Giants game, where it was Burgess or Briggs, Nank won the ruck battle, and that tended to help why our midfield was probably so good for 3 quarters against the Giants last week. So it's a good conversation to have, the questioning, are we just not winning the ruck anymore? Tom Brent had 17 disposals. I'm really happy with his performance. Every week he seems to be quite consistent with it. 396 metres gained, 9 marks. So he's starting to get a lot better at reading the ball, before the ball. He's starting to outmark players. I think in a couple of years I think he could be that Grimes. I feel like he might be like a similar to Grimes, or maybe that. No, not Bashir Hooley. Yeah, Grimes is not really think of because he's not. Grimes wasn't that big, stockier player like an Asper and Rance was. So I think he's gonna be that Grimes who really good overhead mark, reads the play well, and just marks at the right time. So I'm loving his development. Nick Flostone 14. Caleb Smith. Look, I've had a few people I've seen on other channels kind of blasting him, saying he's not up to the standard. Look, a lot of these players aren't up to the standard, and that's another thing we need to remember. It's probably why we faded out so much on the weekend, that not all these players are up to AFL standard, nor was our whole entire team, considering Adam Uze came out and said that is not the AFL standard how he played. I'm not going to blast him for it. I think he's playing a lot better than a lot of players that are on the team right now, and I would like to see him get a couple more weeks in the AFL. Because he's starting to show small signs, and that's all I'm after from a lot of these young fellas. I just want glimpses of signs. I don't want them to kind of take the game by the scruff every single time. There's just moments they need to stand up and show us that, you know, it's worth a future investment in these guys. Because a lot of these young fellas that we have, like Sonzi, probably a Caleb Smith will be coming onto close to his last year, like a Dow and a Ross. A lot of these guys are getting close to, to their contracts ending up. They've got to prove that they're worth us adding another year or two onto their contracts. So, Ben Miller, look, it's a hard day for the defence. He kind of broke away quite easy. But he had 8 marks, 4 tackles. You know, he's probably as a defender in the whole entirety, he's probably the most consistent with him and Nick Flostone. It's a good battle saying who's our most consistent defender. I know, he has moments here and there. But he's only just hit 50 games. So you think another 50 games into him, he could become the best one-on-one defender in this competition. I think that's how he's projecting right now. Seth Campbell, 2 goals, 2 behind. So he kind of went back. He's gone back to his good form where he gets 10 to 13 disposals, kicks a couple of goals, brings the pressure. It's crazy to think he could kick 4 alone. Like he's leading our goal kicking right now as a small forward. He had a couple of games where he could have kicked a bag of 4 or 5, and he really could have, lit up his whole entire season. Broad, to me, he's just kind of 13 disposals, steady as a standard as he is. He had 97% time on ground. Even Ben Miller was 95%, so it shows you those defenders aren't getting much of a break. Shows you maybe why the floodgates kind of opened and we could just never re-get the momentum. The defenders are just running ragged right now. So Hugo Ralph Smith, I've had a few people bashing, saying you need to go back to the VFL. He's not quite there. Look, he's going to learn. This is the whole year. I think we need to have that discussion as well. Probably coming into net the bye on the weekend. I think a few people need to remember that this year is probably in a way for Ooze. Coming into next year, we just wipe this year away because this year is a learning year. He's just got all these new players, all this young talent. A lot of senior players went out. He's coaching in his new system of how he wants this to work for the future. And we can't forget that. He's going to have games where it's not working for everyone, or the game system doesn't work at all. The game against Sydney definitely felt like that in the last quarter. Against Giants definitely felt like that. But we also need to remember, you've got to give him time to implement the new system so these boys can get that down pat. And it might take a year or two for a lot of these guys just to understand it from under 18s coach talent, which is probably quite simple, to now this is your full-time job and learning it all off by heart. So Noel Bolt had 12. Look, not much to say. Lynch had a pretty shit game as well. 8 disposals, 2 behinds. Jack Ross, 6 disposals. Probably pretty poor, maybe due for a good spell. I've been calling it for a while. I'd like to bring in somebody else. Give somebody else a turn. Like, he's playing this half-forward role, and he's not a half-forward. He's inside mid, and we can all agree. The Carlton game was a prime example when you gave him inside mid. It worked. Now you got Prestia, Hopper, and Taranto back there. There's no place for anybody else for some reason. So they just got this idea in their head that that's the 3 mids you can play. You got to play all the time. So that might be a conversation they need to have at the end of the year. Is if Dion retires, is it also maybe a time? Is it a chance to maybe trade away a Hopper or a Taranto, so you can play more young midfield players in the system and give them the exposure to being a midfield in the AFL. So Jonty Fall, look, could have had an out. Could have had a game just alone. He kicked 3 behind, 6 disposals. Still had 199 metres gained, 3 marks, 3 tackles. Very such and such game, but definitely could have torn up 3 goals. Could have been a very good game for him. Steely Green, back to being quiet with 5 disposals. McIntosh, I'm pretty sure he was the sub, so it's 4. I'm not going to criticize him for that. Probably should have been a sub again. Sims, 3 touches. That's a concern because considering this is the Giants, he played so well. So look, I said the weekend coming was great for him. Probably needs it. 2 behinds the goal kicking frustrated me because he was sitting there 25 to 30 out, nearly dead in front. He hit that post, and I was like, those are the ones that's ones that haunt us because then they kicked a couple of goals and they broke away. And it's just that's a small glimpse there, is what I'm saying. Can he not take? He should have taken that by the balls. No, I'm going to kick this goal. I'm going to wrestle the momentum back towards us, and it just died pretty quick. Ryan Mansell, 2 touches. So that's another concern there. Mansell is such a senior player. Maybe the buy is coming up really good for him as well. So, right. Oh, we're almost near the end, guys. I do appreciate you for hanging around this long. Look, Smack lost disposals by 80. So that's not great. With inside 50s, concerning again. Below our season average. We had 38, that's 61. So they were way above their average. Disposal effectiveness was below our average at 69. They were above theirs at 75. So quite up. Now, inside 50 effectiveness was great. This game we are at 50% exactly. They were at 42. So we kind of worked there. Free kick count was even. Yeah, okay, this is the stoppage part we're all going to get frustrated with because it's the same thing on repeat. And I said it the other night with the boys. It's the definition of insanity is doing the same shit over and over again and expecting something to change, and it doesn't. And that's what I'm meaning about the midfield. And that might be a video I need to make about this midfield and bring it up as a concern for everybody, is why are we doing the same shit over and over again with this midfield? So maybe we need to, some ideas just to float some around. So hit-outs, we got slapped in that, 52 to 28. Way below our average and way above their average. Clearances, 30 to 39. Center clearances, 7 to 10. Stoppage clearances, 23 to 29. Like, just lost uncontested and contested possessions. So you're just never going to win. Look, marks, 82 to 127. So obviously that just means they had a lot of possession and they controlled the pace. Did their kick mark, worked their way around. Marks inside 50. They weren't too far off par, nor were we, 5 to 8. Contested marks, 8 to 7. So that just shows you we were a bit better. Goals, yeah, well, that's not great. We'll skip past that one. Tackles is a bit of concern again, 59 to 75. So we were above ours and they were way above theirs. Tackles inside 50. This is a pet peeve for a few boys here. 8 was for us, which is our season average. Theirs is 9. They had 20. They doubled their season average in tackles inside 50. Just shows you how much pressure the defense was under on Saturday. So that's a concern. Maybe something needs to be addressed. Are we just not controlling the ball out of the defense more than we should be? So it's just 1%ers, which is pretty down. Their average is 42. They were down to 37. So they're down by 5, but we were down by 10. So we were 30 compared to we're nearly 40. So from what I know of, no injuries also out of the AFL. Obviously, we know of Judson Clark. The sad news came out he has ruptured his ACL again, the same knee. So that is a bit of a bummer. I don't know if that, got the boys down. I was kind of hoping maybe I don't like to use that as an excuse, but look, that's a bit of a concern right there. It was just the ACL. That kind of hurts. He was in good form. Would have been great to have him back. So, look, that will be it for this episode, guys. I've just kind of a quick rundown, a bit of a sort of a review of the game. Hope you guys are sort of liking my videos. I've hit 105 subscribers. I've had a couple of videos hit 1,000, so I'm really appreciating everyone's views. I've got a couple of videos coming out this week for a couple other trade targets that I personally think that we should go after. I'll give you the reasons why and why I think we should go after them as a trade for now and for future. But yeah, thanks guys for helping me with the subscribers. I am still trying to achieve 500 subscribers, and then I'll start going towards doing some live videos. But if you guys could, as I will probably always say near the end of my video, If you guys could hit that like and subscribe button to help me to reach 500 subscribers, I would really appreciate that. So until next time, guys, remember, go Tigers and stay safe.